This video explains how to derive the sine and cosine of 30 degrees and 60 degrees. Let's begin with an equilateral triangle. There are 180 degrees in any triangle. For the particular case of an equilateral triangle, all three angles are equal. This means that each angle is 60 degrees. In the language of radians, each angle is pi over 3 radians. Now let's assume that the sides of the equilateral triangle each have a value of 2. By definition, all of the sides are equal. Now, let's bisect the equilateral triangle, straight down the middle. The length of this bisected segment, right here, will be 1, since the length of the unbisected segment is 2. Now let's take a look at the bisected angle up here. The bisected angle will be 1/2 the value of the original angle. Therefore, the value of the bisected angle is 30 degrees. Now, let's erase half of this triangle. Examining what we have left, we have a triangle with one angle equal to 60 degrees, one angle equal to 30 degrees, and the remaining angle equal to 90 degrees. Now we can figure out the length of the remaining side using the Pythagorean theorem. The Pythagorean theorem tells us that a squared plus b squared equals c squared. In this case, b is the length of this side right here. The Pythagorean theorem tells us that 1 squared plus b squared equals 2 squared. Now let's solve for b. Taking the square root, we now know that b is equal to the square root of 3. So write that value in next to our triangle. Using this triangle, we can solve for the sine of 30 degrees, the cosine of 30 degrees, the sine of 60 degrees, and the cosine of 60 degrees. How? It's simple. Sine is equal to opposite over hypotenuse. Let's take the sine of 30 degrees. The opposite side in this case is 1. The hypotenuse is 2. The sine of 30 degrees is equal to 1/2. Now let's find the cosine of 30 degrees. Now recall that the cosine is equal to adjacent over hypotenuse. We can recall all of these rules from SOHCAHTOA. Sine is equal to opposite over hypotenuse. Cosine is equal to adjacent over hypotenuse. The cosine of 30 degrees is equal to the adjacent over the hypotenuse, or root 3 over 2. The sine of 60 degrees is equal to the opposite over the hypotenuse. And the cosine of 60 degrees is equal to the adjacent over the hypotenuse. This method begins to give us insight into how the sine and the cosine are related. The sine of 30 degrees is clearly equal to the cosine of 60 degrees. The sine of 60 degrees is equal to the cosine of 30 degrees. Using this simple method of triangles, you can now reconstruct the sine, cosine, or tangent of 30 and 60 degrees.